Hi everyone, my name's Sarah Davidson and I'm the founder of Hello Fearless, which is the school for female entrepreneurs. Every week we'll be doing in-depth video interviews with fearless founders to get the story behind the story of how they created their incredible businesses and lives. In this episode, I'm so honored and excited to have my dear friend Alex Jamieson, who is a best-selling author, a holistic nutrition and lifestyle coach, a detox expert. She's a gourmet chef, among many other things, and truly a testament to a woman who has created a wildly successful business that is driven by her passion for health and food. We'll really get into why she is such a thought leader when it comes to women, food, and desire, and how she helped create this entire movement. She also, very notably, was a co-creator of the documentary Super Size Me, which was Oscar nominated, and she's going to share everything she did to help create a business that is fueled by her passion, how she's overcome any fears or obstacles in her life while managing being a mother and living a really incredible life. So I'm so excited for you guys to tune in. I hope you enjoy it. All right, hi.
Hi.
So good to see you.
Too. This is fun.
Okay, so I'm so excited to have you on here because you're one of the women that I truly believe is a fearless entrepreneur, has taken so many risks in your career, and I think that our viewers are going to learn so much from you. So I'm so excited to have you.
Absolutely. Well, let me just say that fearless, I don't really know if I know what fearless feels like. Um, I mean, sometimes you go for something and it feels so right that you just do it. And sometimes you're going for something, you're like, oh my gosh, this is the scariest thing I've ever done. And you just do it anyway.
Absolutely.
So sometimes fearlessness is about feeling the fear and going for it anyway.
Yeah, using that fear as fuel, right? And to take risks.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so I'd love to start with your background and where you got started.
Okay. So I grew up outside of Portland, Oregon, and neither of my parents were entrepreneurs. My father is a lifelong educator, teacher, high school principal. My mom was an artist, so maybe she was a little bit entrepreneurial, but she just always had lots of projects going and was very creative, but wasn't necessarily a successful entrepreneur. She was a serial entrepreneur and artist, always making things for people and, always really involved and engaged, but didn't necessarily know how to make or generate a good income from it. So I always thought I was going to be a teacher when I grew up or be a writer. And I ended up becoming a writer, but I got really into health in my early 20s because I got really sick. And I was 30 pounds overweight. I was suffering from migraine headaches almost every day, and tons of joint and body pain, and really just depressed and exhausted all the time. And it had kind of come on over the course of about 6 months. And I grew up in this really, outside of Portland, Oregon. I grew up on this old organic farm. My mom had an organic gardening radio show when I was a kid. So I had this memory of being really healthy and knowing that there were natural ways to be well. Well, I went to a doctor here in New York City where I had just moved, and he wanted me to take painkillers and Prozac to help me just deal with the issue.
Band-aid the symptom.
Yes.
Right.
And I had these prescriptions in my hand and I was really scared. I had this moment of clarity and like, oh, this is a fork in the road, because I have a family history of prescription drug abuse and overdose. And I did not want to go down that road. And I wanted to feel good. I have been so inspired by Danielle Laporte, the Desire Map, and I've kind of transformed it into my work in health. Like, how do you want to feel in your body? I don't want to be taking medication. So I got fascinated by food and health found a doctor that helped me clean up my body, do a detox, do a cleanse, and it just became my passion. Learning how to cook in this new vegan Whole Foods way. I had never heard of vegan before. I didn't know any vegans. Whole Foods didn't exist yet. This was 15 years ago. And I decided to quit my job. I was working at a law firm. I thought I might go back to school and become a lawyer. And I was like, nope, that is not what I want.
Did you know that you were unhappy when you were at the law firm?
Yes. So when I got sick, when I started getting these headaches and weight gain and depression, I was working 10, 12-hour days in a law firm as an assistant. And I just didn't care. I didn't care about what I was doing. It was exhausting, heavy work. And when I started to feel better as I was changing my diet and cleaning my body and reading, I was like hiding books under my desk while I was supposed to be typing up letters for my boss. I was like reading books on health.
That's like all of us in our corporate jobs, right?
Totally. And at the time, they wouldn't let the assistants go on the internet because they thought we would abuse it.
Right.
So, I didn't even have access to the outside world. It was all about the library for me at that point.
Nice.
And I realized I have to take control of the trajectory of my life. I was 25 at the time, and I decided to quit my job, enroll in culinary school, get a loan, have my parents co-sign on another student loan for me. And I started working like 2 different day jobs at a vintage clothing store and then at a bar. While I went to healthy cooking school all during the day, I worked at the bar serving pints of beer at night.
Did you have this like inner voice or this intuition that was telling you like there has to be something more? I'm meant to do something bigger than this, or I'm just not happy, or what was it?
I didn't even know where it was going.
Yeah.
I just knew that I felt really passionate about this. And the thing that I learned from both of my parents, my dad was a teacher and he was being groomed by his father, who was a high level executive, in the 50s and 60s, think Mad Men kind of thing. My father was supposed to go on and be a businessman, but he felt a calling to be a teacher. And he made his career doing that. And both of my parents always told me, do what you love, the money will follow. Do what you love to do, and the rest of your life will be fine.
You were so lucky to have parents that taught you that lesson.
So lucky. They've always been so supportive. So, going to culinary school was a huge undertaking. It was very expensive, but I was just like, I don't even know what I'm going to do with this. I just know this is what I'm so into. And it healed my body. And if I can tell other people how to do this, awesome.
Oh my gosh.
So while I'm in culinary school and working at a bar all night, I meet this guy in the bar named Morgan, and he's this young budding filmmaker, and we start dating. And, all I do is talk about food and health. All he is focused on is like filmmaking and how to like make it break into the business. And after about a year of being together, we come up with the idea for Super Size Me.
Okay, so for our viewers that don't know what Super Size Me, what is it?
So Super Size Me was a documentary. It was really the first foodie documentary where Morgan decided to eat nothing but McDonald's for 30 days, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, everything. And we recorded what happened to him. He had doctors following his progress. I'm in the movie quite a bit because here I was, this healthy vegan chef dating this guy who was eating nothing but junk food all day long. And he got really sick really fast. Mm-hmm. And I was following all of these, health giants in my world who weren't well known in the mainstream. So people like John Robbins and all these doctors, I was like, you have to go interview these people because they're the ones that inspired me and they're not getting attention. So we put them in Super Size Me, and it gave them a huge platform, and it really reignited this conversation around food as health. And the movie got nominated for an Oscar. We went to Sundance. We went to over 24 countries in a year, premiering the movie in different countries. So this little movie that we made because we were both just so passionate about it, he put all of the, all the costs to make this movie went on credit cards. It was like 60 grand didn't know what was going to happen, if anyone was ever going to see it. Again, it was like this leap of faith that I took into culinary school. It was like the next leap of faith into making this movie.
Right. You weren't planning on it being such a phenomenon and ending up on Oprah or red carpets, right?
Exactly. Going to the Oscars and having people like giving me designer gowns to wear and like $60,000 in earrings. I'm like, this is more than my college education right here on my ear.
Right.
You know?
Had you started your coaching practice at that time, or?
So I was just going back to school. So after culinary school, I worked as a private chef and I worked in a couple of restaurants, but I was really interested in working with people who needed to heal their body and needed someone to help them with their food. So I was working with cancer patients and going to people's home and providing a whole week's worth of food to help them deal specifically with their health issues. And right about the time we started making Super Size Me, I re-enrolled in another program to become a certified holistic health coach. So just as the movie came out, I was now certified as a health coach. And again, all of this timing just lined up. And thank goodness I had a friend who was an early web designer. This was in 2002. And he said, "Do you have a web page?" And I was like, "No." He said, "I'm going to build you a web page for $500. And you should really have a little thing where people can leave their name and email." I was like, okay.
Right. No idea what opt-ins are at that time, or
Nobody knew what an opt-in
to
was.
strategically build your list. Yeah.
There was no conversation about this at all. Thank goodness he did that for me. I owe him my career now, basically, because that when the movie came out, the last, few title cards at the end of the movie were, if you want to get healthy like Morgan did with Alex's help, go to her website. So that's how I started building my list, was from the movie.
Was veganism at that time mainstream even?
No, nobody knew what vegan was. It was very, very radical.
But you were in New York.
I was in New York City.
And you've always been learning, researching, doing your own thing. So
yeah, my brother had been vegetarian in high school, and really I adopted veganism because I was reading books and I read this book about how veganism could change your health. And I read it, I was like, oh, this sounds like what I'm going through. Mm-hmm. So I'm going to go vegan to deal with all my health issues. And it totally worked.
Right. Absolutely. Okay. So you had this list, you had all of these inquiries of people that wanted to work with you. And at the time, did you consider yourself an entrepreneur, even though you were?
I didn't. I really didn't know what it was. I just thought, oh, well, I'm a coach, so I'm a coach. But I didn't really think of myself as building a business.
Yeah.
And because I had never seen anyone do it, except for Morgan, and that was a totally different business model. That was being a filmmaker and having a studio give you money to make a series, like totally different thing.
Right.
So I have to be honest, it wasn't until I've been in business now for 15 years, but I don't feel like I really became an entrepreneur until a few years ago.
Right. I think that's true of a lot of entrepreneurs, that especially if they're passion-driven business. I'm like, you're an entrepreneur. You're selling a commodity. You're selling something, and it shifts their mindset a little bit differently of how they think of their business and how they run this enterprise that they're creating.
Right. And it can sometimes be, we sometimes are, us passion, heart-centered entrepreneurs, sometimes have a hard time putting a price on what we do.
Yep.
Because it's my mission, it's my life. Like, I'm here to help people. I'm here to do this thing. It's my art. How can I charge for this? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So getting to a place where you're charging what you're really worth, the value of your services and your opinion, is something that a lot of us struggle with.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so what happened after Super Size Me then?
So after Super Size Me, I wrote my first book. And that was called The Great American Detox Diet. And it detailed everything that I helped Morgan do. It detailed my own story. And that was a very lucky break for me, in that the movie had so much attention around it. I was a chef and a certified coach. So I was actually contacted by a publisher who said, we want you to write a book. That's not a normal story, right?
Right.
Most people who want to write a book, they have to go through the whole process of like building a story and writing the book and proposal and then pitching it and getting an agent and all this. So I was very lucky in that that happened. But I had wanted to be a writer and I had been writing, like I was the yearbook editor in high school. I started a zine in college with friends. So I had some experience with this. And I knew, okay, well, I can write a sample chapter about what this book will be. And that book was my, it was a great advance. I didn't have to pay to put the proposal together. And after that book came out, it did pretty well. It did pretty well. And then I had my son with Morgan, and
In the middle of all that?
in the middle of all that.
Okay.
And that was in, when was he born? 2006. So in 2006, just a couple years after the movie came out, I had been coaching. I wrote my first book. I decided to take a couple years off and have our son. I didn't, I just wanted to be with him, and that was all great, good plan, but things kind of fell apart at that point. Our son was about a year old when, I won't go into the details, but our marriage started to fall apart.
Wow.
And Morgan's career was getting bigger and bigger and bigger.
So you were in the public eye a little bit for this.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. He was definitely more so. He was out there. He was the face of all of his projects. I was taking less and less part in them. I was still in a couple of his TV shows, but very, very slim amount of time. And I said, I just want to take some time to be with our kid. And then the marriage started to fall apart. And so here we were getting divorced. My career was totally on hold. I was basically now a single mom, and I had to kind of start all over again.
Wow. This whole time, were you blogging, or were you,
Yeah.
because you were already positioned as a thought leader, and I know you had a website out there, you were already a published author.
Right.
Were you doing anything else to build your visibility as a brand, or was it just this book at this point in time?
So I was only blogging once a month because, I was taking time off to be with my kid.
Right.
And
It's about bandwidth and priorities.
yeah, exactly. And, would I do it differently now if it happened again? Sure. But it was fine. I still had my list. I still had like 10,000 people on my newsletter list who got an email from me once a month with the recipe. It was very sweet. But I wasn't selling anything. I wasn't offering anything. It was just a recipe, basically. And, here I now am, a divorced mom trying to create a business. With very little understanding of how the internet marketing world works. So I got my first coach. I hired someone who I knew pretty well, and she had a good reputation, and she helped me create my first online programs and like get a marketing schedule down and understand how to bring people in, and that was like 2009.
So what was your decision to no longer be, or were you still doing one-on-one coaching, or what appealed you to creating more of an online program? And I think we can go into that, because what I love about everything that you've done is you've diversified yourself into all these different revenue streams that a lot of coaches might not consider when it comes to scalability. And so I want to kind of dive into that.
Sure. So I was just doing one-on-one coaching for a while, and then I added one group detox a year. And that was a way to get, work with more people at a time, and create a way to, scale my business. Like I can now, my last program was like 150 people going through the same cleanse at the same time. And I hope the next one's even bigger. And it's great to be able to get so much content out there and actually bring people together in a way where they're supporting each other, which is wonderful. So I'm doing less, but more at the same time.
Right.
So
and you had your coaching business, and did you do like that as a side hustle to kind of fund, like to hire the coach that you needed to learn more of the internet marketing and all that?
Yeah. I had my my one-on-one clients. I had my group program. And then I had written these 2 books, which were paying me almost nothing. And
It's an expensive business card, right?
Yeah, very expensive business card.
Okay, so you hired a coach and you started learning more about this internet marketing thing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and what was that experience like? Because you had to learn it all yourself. You couldn't just hire an agency to handle it for you.
Well, that's what I've learned over the years is that you really have to learn how to do everything yourself.
Yep.
You really have to know how your email platform works. You have to write your own stuff. I mean, you have to know how your business runs on a micro level, and then you can hand it off to someone else.
Right. It's so funny. So many entrepreneurs say that because you have to learn so many different facets of the business inside and out, aside from what your passion is or what it is that you're selling. So I love that you touched on that. So the whole time you're a mother, single mother, and you're diving in and you're launching these group programs and everything. Were you into personal, we talk a lot about personal growth and, you went through this huge transition, and were you balancing out, like, as you're building your business, like discovering who you are as a woman, or what did that process look like?
Absolutely. I don't know if I believe in balance. I think you're constantly dancing through life, and sometimes the rhythm is faster and sometimes it's slower.
Amen,
sometimes
sister.
Sometimes you got a partner and sometimes you're doing a solo dance.
Right.
I've never described it in that way. I think that might be perfect. I have to write that down for a blog post.
I love it.
So, yeah, there were some really rough months. I mean, there was a whole year of rough months during my divorce where I wasn't interested in dating. I didn't know if my marriage was going to get back on track, going to counseling, going to therapy myself, doing like mind body work with Pilates and going to like biofeedback, and all the while trying to support my own health while trying to build a business and take care of a kid and get divorced. And, in this time frame, I came upon a really challenging realization that my body was asking for meat. Here I was, this vegan expert, I'd written 3 books on it, and I started craving meat. And I was so committed to the vegan
You're
mind
like the world's
frame.
Thought leader in veganism, and
I don't know, but I had written a few books about it, so that's what I was known for. And I thought, this is bad. This is not good. I can't do this. But at the same time, my menstrual cycle was getting shorter and shorter. Like every 2 weeks, I was exhausted. I thought, I teach people to learn how to listen to their bodies, and I'm not allowing myself to do the same. So with some support from some really close friends, I started like secretly eating animal products, and it felt physically great, but emotionally I was really in turmoil about it.
Right.
And I think, it's interesting to look back at the trajectory of my business, because around that time, my business kind of took a little bit of a dip. And I now see it's because I wasn't in alignment with, I wasn't calling myself vegan anymore. I didn't call myself vegan, and I didn't call my recipes vegan. I said, this is plant-based, and this is great if you have this health issue, right? Whatever. But it wasn't, it didn't feel, I couldn't lie. I couldn't lie about it. So about 1.5 years ago, I finally came out on my blog as no longer vegan. And it was crazy. It went totally viral overnight. Thousands of comments, thousands of shares on Facebook.
Good and bad. A lot of
good and bad. I now looking back, I think there were more good and supportive comments than bad. But when you have actual friends unfriend you on Facebook because you don't eat what they eat anymore, it was really emotional and really challenging.
What was that process like in kind of coming out, and you're like, I'm going to be me. I'm going to stop apologizing for what I want and who I am. And, you started to lose friends, or what was that like going through that?
So going through it was so emotional. I cried a lot. There were days when I didn't work because I was kind of numb, and it was really scary. I didn't know I didn't have a plan for how my business was going to evolve through all this.
Right.
I thought, wow, I might lose my whole business, and I don't know what to do about that. But I didn't, it wasn't, I couldn't let that stop me.
Mm.
I couldn't let not knowing stop me from doing what I know I needed to be as a person. So, with some support from wonderful people, I finally sent out this blog post. And what happened in that couple of weeks was truly amazing. That it got so much attention that my friend Jonathan Fields, the Good Life Project, he and I did an interview about what was about this whole thing for me, and his book agent saw it and said, "I want to talk to you about a book proposal about all of this that's going
Oh, I
on."
didn't know that's how it came about. Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
So Jonathan's agent and I started working together. I took another huge leap of faith and hired someone, a professional from the publishing and writing world, to help me put together a really strong proposal. And that was a huge investment. It was like $6,000 just to write a proposal to send out, not knowing what was going to happen. And again, another huge leap of faith.
Hmm.
And again, this one worked out. Like, there were a lot of things that didn't work out. There were some book proposals that I sent out that never got made. There's a lot of interviews you do that never see the light of day. Things don't always work out, but you just keep going with what your gut tells you.
Amen, sister. Okay, so let's talk about this book that you are birthing to the world. That is, from what just knowing you and your evolution as a woman. And, this whole time they're talking about building your business, you are discovering more of who you are, more of what you desire in life, in relationships, and, all different areas. And when you mentioned Jonathan Fields, I just love him because he talks a lot about alignment, and building a business is more than building a successful company. It's about building a extraordinary life, right? And so talk to us about your book that you're creating, or that's already ready to go, right?
Yeah, I just turned the book into the publisher, and it will be out January 6th, 2015.
Holla.
You're coming to the book launch party,
Yeah.
baby. It's called Women, Food, and Desire. Embrace your cravings, make peace with food, and reclaim your body. And it's my story of cravings, reclaiming my health, learning to find a new path of no rules of eating to really find what worked best for me, and how I've used that same idea to help many of my clients. So up until about 6 months ago, I was still working with one-on-one clients as well. Then I started writing the book and just doing group programs. So my business model has shifted through all of this. But that's kind of the beauty of being an online entrepreneur, is that you can change your business model. If you can learn a new system, you can change your business model. Whether or not it's 100% effective, you'll explore that as you go through it. But the book has been such a learning process, and I'm now setting up my online presence to be ready for the attention that the book will hopefully bring.
So for women who, because I know we're wrapping up here, for women entrepreneurs that maybe don't have a relationship with their body or desire or these cravings, what is some advice that you would give to them, and how to kind of start that process?
So learning to listen to yourself and trust yourself, I think is one of the most basic tools that you can have as an entrepreneur.
Yeah.
And you and your body are a team. And your physical cravings for food, most of us as women have been taught that your body is bad and wrong and always wants wrong things. And you don't really, you screw up all the time. You've failed at diets. We live in this culture of guilt and shame, and it's not true. The deal is that we have all kinds of cravings and desires, whether it's for creativity or success or engagement or stepping out into our spotlight or intimacy or nutrients. We have all these different cravings, and we need to learn to listen to them. They are our best allies to not just get the body of our dreams, but to get the life of our dreams.
I've never heard somebody explain it like that. That your intuition and these cravings that you have, it is deep down, it's in your body.
Yeah.
And that's like your guiding light for every decision you make in your business and your life holistically.
Yeah.
That's really brilliant. I love that so
Thank
much.
you.
Oh my
Thank
gosh.
you.
Well, thank you so much for this interview. I just adore you, and you shared so many valuable pieces of information for our women, and thanks so much.
I love being here with you, and I hope this was helpful for some of your viewers.
Okay, so where can people find more information about you?
Well, two places. So they can go to my website, alexandrajameson.com, or if they want to look more at this whole cravings things we've been talking about, I have the coolest cravings type quiz. So you can find out what cravings type you are. What do your cravings mean for you? And they can go to cravingsquiz.com. Find out your type, get an awesome report. It is the funnest opt-in I've ever created.
I
I
saw
love
that
it
the
so
other
much.
day. It's so brilliant. It's so brilliant. I love it. Okay, everyone check that out. And Alex, we'll talk to you soon. Thanks so much.
Mwah.
All right, bye. All right, everyone. I hope you really enjoyed that Fearless Founder interview with Alex Jamieson. And if you loved it, share it with anyone that you know that might enjoy it. We have a bunch of share buttons on the interview page. And be sure to sign up for our email newsletter where you can stay in the know with all of our most latest Fearless Founder interviews to get all of the tips and tricks that women who have been there before you have done to create awesome businesses and lives. So thanks so much.